Alright, hey, welcome back to Car Talks, where I ramble, rave, and word about my thoughts on training, life, and fitness. Thinking about today, knowing the past, knowing the history of things. I'm filming this a week after presidential elections, and you hear a lot of times people throw out this saying of comparing certain people to certain groups in history, right? And I think that's the big thing is we need to understand history, and I'm going to get into this and how it relates to sports and strength. We need to understand history because it informs what has happened and what we need to avoid or what we need to lean back towards a little bit, right? I'm saying this because I've been teaching some lectures in a college setting, kind of on practical applications of strength and conditioning, and one of the big slides that I include in each PowerPoint, depending on what the PowerPoint's about, every PowerPoint that I've had so far has had a slide that says we can't talk about this without knowing this person, right? That's one of the things that I think is very, very crucial, because when we look at history, right? So I'll give an example. We can't talk about periodization without knowing Louis Simmons, because he flipped periodization on its head. We can't talk about program design or exercise selection without talking about Mike Boyle and the bilateral deficit and unilateral training. We can't talk about power development and speed or plyos or anything like that without talking about Cal Dietz, Tony Holler, Charlie Francis, right? We can't talk about these things without knowing these individuals, right? Because they pave the way for us to do what we do, right? If you're a power lifter, you can't really understand powerlifting until you understand and know who Louis is. Because Louis changed the game in powerlifting. He brought powerlifting, at least from the way that I see it, he probably popularized powerlifting training to the nth degree of however you want to look at it. He was very, very successful in his approach, and people actually kind of know powerlifting names now because of it, right? Who would have made how did Mark Bell become famous other than he was, him and his family? It's they're a bunch of powerlifters and meatheads, and there's some pro wrestling in there, right? We need to understand our history, right? Strength sports, you can't understand strength sports without knowing Mike Berger, or weightlifting, right? I'm going to use weightlifting. I say strength sports, but weightlifting, right? You can't understand weightlifting without knowing Bob Takano and Tommy Kono and Mike Bergner, David Rieger, right? You got to be able to understand who these people are, because they pave the way, they inform our decisions. Some people have made some bad decisions in sport, and you kind of learn from them and learn from their mistakes, because either A, they're not practicing anymore, or something bad happened. Knowing the history is important to knowing where we can go in the future. So, I don't know. My mind is all over the place right now. Hopefully that made sense. Until next time, see you in the passenger seat.